What's up? How's everyone doing? I'm doing my 8th time through the Bible. As you can see, I've done Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, and I even did a little bit of 1 Kings. So I've read the Bible 7 times all the way through. Some of that was listening, some was watching word for word movies, but I haven't really been reading through it super aggressively. I've been kind of like listening to a few chapters at night for maybe 3 to 6 months. So I thought maybe it's time to get back into it. And it's been a wild roller coaster ride. Those first books of the Old Testament, Genesis was interesting, Exodus was great. Leviticus, we all know that's not the most action-packed of all of them, although I did find a cool, interesting guy on YouTube named Tabernacle Man, and he actually teaches a lot of interesting stories about verses in Leviticus. So it did kind of bring that to light to me a little bit. I got to see what all the golden furniture in the tabernacle looked like. He showed what the sheep look like when they're about to be sacrificed. Interestingly, I never knew this, even though I've read it through it so many times, that the giant grill that they do their sacrifices on was actually, when they're sacrificing, they're putting animals onto a giant, essentially what's like a 10 foot by 10 foot barbecue. I never knew that it was made out of acacia wood and covered with copper. I never knew that. And I wonder if that is to make it lighter to carry, because in the tabernacle, we're talking about when the children of Israel are wandering around the Sinai Peninsula after they leave Egypt. So they're always packing up their stuff and moving the giant tent-like tabernacle everywhere they go. It's possible that their giant grill to sacrifice animals was made out of wood and covered with copper so it wouldn't get burnt up, to make it lighter to carry. Possible. Okay, honestly, I forgot how insane Numbers was. Numbers to me has always been one of the most underappreciated, most incredible, awesome books of the Bible. There's a section where the earth's people are complaining that they're not getting meat, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sick of manna." So God replies to them, "Oh, seriously? Like, I can probably get you some meat." And he fills the entire landscape with birds, waist high, 3 feet high, as far as the eye can see, which is like a day's walk in every direction. And then the people who are complaining, he opens up the ground. They're all like stuffing themselves for days with the birds. And then he opens up the ground and it swallows up the people who were complaining. I'm not making this up. That's really what happens in the book of Numbers. Someone said something to me about, I said, they know I go through the Bible over and over and over. And I said, "Oh, yeah, today I'm on Numbers." Or somehow it came up in conversation and they're like, "Oh, that sucks." And I'm like, "Bro, you have no idea how gangster, just action packed, just like nonstop roller coaster of emotions the book of Numbers is." I mean, it's just wild. I should probably get one of my other Bibles and go through some of the cool things that happen. Just give me just one moment. Okay, I have many great different Bibles. Here's my King James. This is a giant one. This is a Message Bible. This is one Pastor Phil gave me, QuickView NIV. I use them all for various things, but this is my kind of like my longest used Bible. Let's just see what kind of cool notes we have in there. I don't even know myself at this minute. Okay. Numbers in Hebrew, the Hebrew title is in the wilderness or wilderness wandering. So this basically takes place right after Exodus, after the children of Israel flee Egypt. First chapter is, it's kind of like a list of how many people are in all the tribes of Israel. There's 12. They each have about approximately 50,000 people in each tribe, or 50,000 men 20 years and old and older who are able to fight. So the way they do their population is they count fighting men, someone who's 20 years old and up to the age when they can still fight, which I'm guessing would be 60. That's just my guess. Could be more. So the tribes are Reuben, Simeon, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Ephraim, son of Joseph, Manasseh, son of Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, Asher, Gad, and Naphtali. And by the way, those names are all printed at the foundation of heaven. Literally, all those names are printed at the foundation of heaven. All right, there's the famous Aaronite blessing. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. Whenever Aaron and his sons bless the people of Israel in my name, I myself will bless them. Wow, that's cool. Okay. Numbers 11. Then the foreign rabble who were traveling with the Israelites began to crave the good things of Egypt, and the people of Israel also began to complain. Oh, for some meat, they exclaimed. We remember the fish we used to eat for free in Egypt, and we had all the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic we wanted. By the way, they're all complaining about how terrible life is after they left Egypt. But did you know that people were murmuring in Egypt too? It's not like things actually were great in Egypt. People were complaining all the time in Egypt about how horrible life was. But now that they've escaped that, they're complaining about how they used to have all these great cucumbers and free fish and melons, leeks, and onions. Have you ever complained that you didn't get enough leeks? Have you ever complained you didn't get enough onions? Oh, remember those onions? Remember those leeks? I mean, I don't know. But now our appetites are gone. All we ever see is this manna. And you know, manna is a miracle from heaven. It's food that falls from the sky. It appears on the grass every morning like dew, right? The manna looked like small coriander seeds, and it was pale yellow like gum resin. The people would go out and gather it from the ground. They made flour by grinding it with hand mills or pouring it into mortars. All right, let's see what happens next. Purify yourselves, for tomorrow you will have meat to eat. Let me back up. Moses chooses 70 leaders. The Lord said to Moses, gather before me 70 men who are recognized as elders and leaders of Israel. Bring them to the tabernacle, which is the tent, which is basically like their giant place of worship, their giant temple that you can move. It's made out of cloth and poles. To stand there with you. I will come down and talk to you there. I will take some of the spirit that is upon you, and I will put the spirit upon them also. They will bear the burden of the people along with you, so you will not have to carry it alone. And say to the people, purify yourselves, for tomorrow you will have meat to eat. You were whining, and the Lord heard you when you cried, oh, for some meat. We were better off in Egypt. Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will have it to eat. And it won't be just for a day or two, or 5 or 10 or 20. You will eat it for a whole month, until you gag and are sick of it. For you have rejected the Lord, who is here among you, and you have whined to him, saying, Why did we ever leave Egypt? But Moses responded to the Lord, there are 600,000 foot soldiers here with me, and yet you say, I will give them meat for a whole month. Even if we butchered all our flocks and herds, would that satisfy them? Even if we caught all the fish in the sea, would that be enough? Then the Lord, by the way, side note, I always thought there were about 200 Israelites leaving Egypt, he just said there's 600,000 foot soldiers. I always thought there were 200, and the reason is from watching the movie from the 50s, Moses, where they're leaving Egypt and it looks like about 200 people. But that's just how many extras they could get that day. That's not a true representation. The true number is the same as a giant American city, 600,000 male foot soldiers, and there's more women and children. So Moses, okay, so the Lord said to Moses, "Has my arm lost its power? Now you will see whether or not my word comes true." So Moses went out and reported the Lord's words to the people. He gathered the 70 elders and stationed them around the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in the cloud and spoke to Moses. Then he gave the 70 elders the same spirit that was upon Moses. And when the spirit rested upon them, they prophesied. But this never happened again. 2 men, Eldad and Medad, had stayed behind the camp. They were listed among the elders, but they had not gone out to the tabernacle. Yet the Spirit rested upon them as well, so they prophesied there in camp. A young man then reported to Moses, "Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp." Joshua, son of Nun, who had been Moses' assistant since his youth, protested, "Moses, my master, make them stop." But Moses replied, "Are you jealous for my sake? I wish that all the Lord's people were prophets and that the Lord would put his Spirit upon them all." Then Moses returned to camp with the elders of Israel. The Lord sends quail. This is things are about to get pretty insane. Now the Lord sent a wind that brought quail from the sea and let them fall all around the camp for miles in every direction. There were quail flying about 3 feet above the ground. So the people went out and caught quail all that day and throughout the night and all the next day. 2. No one gathered less than 50 bushels. They spread the quail all around the camp to dry. But while they were gorging themselves on the meat, while it was still in their mouths, the anger of the Lord blazed against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. So that place was called Kibroth Hattava, which means graves of gluttony, because there they buried the people who had craved meat from Egypt. Wow. It's one. I don't know. That one always gets me. Here's another cool thing from the next chapter. The Lord descended in the pillar of cloud and stood at the entrance of the tabernacle. Aaron and Miriam he called, and they stepped forward, and the Lord said to them, "Now listen to what I say. If there were prophets among you, I, the Lord, would reveal myself in visions. I would speak to them in dreams, but not with my servant Moses. Of all my house, he is the one I trust. I speak to him face to face, clearly, and not in riddles. He sees the Lord as he is. So why were you not afraid to criticize my servant Moses?" Moses' own siblings are complaining about him, and the Lord actually comes down and says, "Listen, Moses is my favorite." That's enough for now.